Yo, what is up everyone, and welcome to the next video. One trade for each NBA team, part 2. Let's get it! We're gonna start off with the Houston Rockets. And I have actually covered the Rockets in the last video, so if anyone wants to know more, you can check it out in part 1. But for people who haven't seen it, the trade was: Rockets receive Dorian Finney-Smith, Nets receive Jeff Green, 26th second round pick, and a 26th second round pick. To keep it short, as, like I said, the trade was already covered, Rockets want to make a playoff push and having Finney-Smith on the team slightly helps them, and the Nets are rebuilding and acquiring 2 second round picks for a veteran as well as an expiring contract is in their best interest. Now let's get to the Pacers. And after the loss of Jalen Smith, their backup center spot needs an upgrade. And while James Wiseman is still young and could very much one day become a solid backup, as of right now I wouldn't necessarily trust him with that role, especially given that Miles Turner isn't exactly an Iron Man, and I doubt the Pacers would be happy to start Wiseman in his place in case of an injury, so that's the trade I drew for them. Pacers receive Walker Kessler, Jazz receive James Wiseman, 28th first round pick and a 27th second round pick, their own. Walker Kessler would be a great pickup for the Pacers. Having a quality backup center is quite vital for any team, and Kessler could also very easily become a starter on many teams in the association, giving the Pacers a peace of mind in case Miles Turner goes out with an injury. And if the rumors are to be believed, the Jazz are interested in trading Walker Kessler anyways, so I'm fairly certain they'd be cool with that package. Not only would they receive a young center and a first round pick, they'd also get their own second round pick for 2027, which, seeing their trajectory, might end up being one of the top second round picks that year. Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers were a difficult one, as they don't really have any interesting tradable assets. I figured that the best way to improve the team would be by adding a good backcourt starter, either a point guard or a shooting guard. That doesn't really matter as Harden can play both of those positions. There weren't many players that the Clippers could realistically trade for though, so I suppose that's as good a trade as anyone could find for them. Clippers receive Malcolm Brogdon, Wizards receive PJ Tucker, Bones Highland, Kobe Brown, Kevin Porter Jr. and a 2030 second round pick. That would be a solid move for the Clippers and would improve their lineup. In this scenario, Brogdon starts at point guard, followed by Harden, Derek Jones Jr., Kawhi and Zubac, with the bench consisting of Chris Dunn, Norman Powell, Terrence Mann, Batum and Mo Bamba. Brogdon in the backcourt helps defensively, which is much needed with Harden on the team, and can stagger with the second unit to provide more offense thanks to his excellent playmaking skills. Wizards, on the other hand, are a rebuilding team, and while they are not getting a first rounder in this deal, they are acquiring 3 young players and a second round pick, and even though it does look like they're kinda getting Clippers scraps, all of these guys are only 24 years old and could still develop into good NBA players. The next team is the Los Angeles Lakers. And I've already covered the Lakers as a whole in the second video on my channel, so if anyone wants to see more about it, you can watch that video. I will however talk about this trade alone here, and it is: Lakers receive Lonzo Ball, Nikola Vucevic, Bulls receive D'Angelo Russell, Gabe Vincent, Jared Vanderbilt and Christian Wood. And I realize this trade looks like something out of 2K, but hear me out. After the last few unsuccessful years, and with the end of LeBron's career creeping around the corner, the Lakers have to take a risk and pull the trigger on this deal. And yes, I realize it's a huge risk, given that Lonzo Ball hasn't played in a few years, but if he comes back even remotely close to the player he was before the injury, he'd be a perfect fit on the Lakers. Lonzo would improve their defense immensely and could also provide offense with his playmaking abilities and a solid 3-point shot. Vucevic, despite having an off year last season, could generally stretch the floor well throughout most of his career, and if he could shoot at even around 35%, he'd have a great impact on the team. That could also allow the Lakers to slide Anthony Davis back to his preferred and best position, which is power forward, as well as have Rui Hachimura coming off the bench, which is the perfect role for him. As far as the Bulls go, I'm not sure that they would want to do this trade, as they seem quite hell-bent on keeping Vucevic, Lonzo and Lavin together. That trade seems to be perfect for them, however, and I'll explain exactly why. After acquiring Josh Giddey, they don't really need Lonzo anymore, especially that he's a risk factor now coming back after a few years. They have a solid backcourt rotation, and unlike the Lakers, they don't need to take that risk. Vucevic has not worked for the Bulls at all, like they imagined he would, and it's time for them to move away from him. And while I realize they are not interested in a rebuild, they don't necessarily have to with this deal. The Bulls could make it a 3-team trade, keep Jared Vanderbilt as they are in need of a solid backup power forward, and send Wood, Russell and Gabe Vincent to a 3rd team for a new center. And with that kind of package, they can actually hit a jackpot. So I'm sure this trade could work wonders for both teams. Next, Grizzlies receive Jordan Clarkson, Jazz receive Luke Kennard, John Conchar, 25 second round pick and 26 second round pick. Like I said, the Grizzlies could use a guy in the second unit that can provide a spark off the bench with his offensive prowess, and there aren't many better fitted players to that role than Jordan Clarkson. And when it comes to the Jazz, they are a rebuilding team, and Clarkson is 32 years old already, and while he's a really solid backup, I wouldn't personally value him at a 1st round pick, but 2 second round picks and 2 veterans that could be flipped for additional 2nd round picks is a solid deal for them. Now let's talk about Miami Heat. And I have some terrible news for the Heat fanbase. I believe that the window for Miami to win a championship has already closed and some changes need to be made. And sure, they can still make playoffs and put on some fight, but realistically, they don't really have a chance to win it all, and there's no reason to postpone the inevitable. The best thing Miami can do is go into rebuild before Jimmy Butler loses his value, as he's already 35 years old, and while they can still get a solid return for him. The trade I'm about to present to you will not be possible until December 15th though. Heat receive Lou Dort, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, Ousmane Dieng, 25 first round pick, their own, and 25 first round pick via 76ers. Thunder receive Jimmy Butler, Kevin Love, Josh Richardson. Like I said, it's in Heat's best interest to trade Jimmy while he still has a lot of value and start a rebuild, as they already have missed their window to win a championship. And that trade is as good as they could ask for. Not only do they get 4 young players back, they also get 2 picks for the next year's draft, including 1 of their own. Which means they can tank the next season and end up with one of the top picks in the draft. They also trade 3 of their veterans, which opens up minutes for all those young players to get playtime and develop well. As for the Thunder, I believe that if they want to greatly improve their chances at winning a championship, they need to get some veterans on the team. Despite being one of the top teams in the league, they are still very inexperienced. Jimmy is the perfect player to put on the roster, not only because of his talent and skills, but also due to the mentorship he could provide to these young guys around him. They also received 2 other solid veteran players in a former champion, Kevin Love, and a 3-and-D player in Josh Richardson to provide a spark off the bench. None of the pieces they trade are really crucial to the team, except maybe Lou Dort, but they do replace him with a much better Jimmy Butler. Milwaukee Bucks. What the Bucks need the most is to put a good defender at the shooting guard position to make up for Dame. And they are in a tough spot, because they are a second apron team. It's difficult to find a trade that can work and still make sense, as outside the main core everyone is on low salaries, and Bucks can't accumulate players in a trade. I wanted to put either Matisse Thybulle or Josh Richardson on the Bucks, but there is no actual way to make this trade and still make it make sense. I'll show you the deal that I drew for them now. Bucks receive Davion Mitchell, Raptors receive Pat Connaughton and 2031 first round pick. While Davion Mitchell would be an undersized shooting guard, cause he is a point guard after all and 6'2", he is still a really good perimeter defender, which is something the Bucks need most at that position. I realize that Mitchell is not exactly worth a first round pick, but that's really the only way for the rebuilding Raptors to be interested in that trade. And for the Bucks who desperately need a player like him, I believe the sacrifice of a future pick is worth it. Raptors could be interested in that pick, as, well, let's be honest, it is an overpay for Davion Mitchell, and by the time 2031 arrives, there is a big chance that the Bucks will not be a good team anymore, and the pick might become extremely valuable. Minnesota Timberwolves. And, well, after the recent trade, I believe the Minnesota Timberwolves are basically as ready as they can be for the next season and don't need to make any more moves. The next team to talk about is the New Orleans Pelicans. And I'm not gonna lie, I may have actually cooked something spectacular here. So the Pelicans need a solid center, and while they did draft Yves Missi recently, he's a rookie and we can't really expect that much of him, and the Pelicans want to compete now. which now they very much can with their solid roster. But first they have to get at least a solid big to put in the starting lineup, and have Missy coming off the bench. In the perfect world, they could get a big that can stretch the floor to make up for Zion's lack of a 3-point shot. And I'm happy to say that I've created a 3-team trade which benefits everyone involved and gets Pelicans the perfect big that can stretch the floor. Though I have to say it can't be made until December 15th. So here's the trade. Pelicans receive Lauri Markkanen. Jazz receive Lu Dort, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, Daniel Theis, 25 first round pick via Miami, 25 first round pick their own, and 27 second round pick via Bulls. And Thunder receive Brandon Ingram, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, and Javonte Green. For the Pelicans the trade is rather obvious. Like I said before, they need a good center to pair with Zion, and Markkanen is the perfect fit and would improve the team immensely. They also trade away Brandon Ingram, which they were rumored to wish for some time now. They end up with a starting lineup of Murray, CJ McCollum, Trey Murphy, Zion Williamson, and Lauri Markkanen. The Jazz, let's be honest, are not going to cause problems in the league anytime soon, so it is in their best interest to trade Markkanen now that his value is so high, and get a really good return of not only young players, but also 2 picks for the next draft, including one of their own, which should give them one of the top picks in the next draft if they play their cards right. Now Thunder, like I said during the potential trade with Miami, need to add a solid veteran to their roster, and in this case they get one of the best small forwards in the league. Considering the upside of getting Brandon Ingram and their large stock of draft capital, this trade seems to me like a no-brainer. And last, but definitely not least, my beloved team, the New York Knicks! And I am ecstatic for the season ahead of us, and I'm over the moon with the team we've assembled. And I believe that we just need one more trade. Mitchell Robinson is too injury prone, and I'd be happy to see us trade for another backup center. We could also use a backup wing, and I found a perfect trade that benefits both teams and gets everyone what they want. I just want to add that I wasn't happy at the beginning with us trading away Donte DiVincenzo, and wasn't sure if we had anyone to take over his role, but I've come to realize that I believe in Deuce, so we do not need a new shooting guard. That is the trade I've planned. Knicks receive Steven Adams, Cam Whitmore. Rockets receive Mitchell Robinson, Jericho Sims, and a 25 second round pick via Celtics or Grizzlies. And that package is exactly what we need right now. Steven Adams is a great backup, and while he is coming back after a season-long injury, that's all for today. Thank you for watching the video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please let me know in the comments what you think about those trades. Maybe you have some better propositions. I'll be happy to read them and respond. So, till the next time. Peace.